because you write everything. You don't need anybody to take dictation. But we became pretty good friends. And, but I think of what a culture shock it must have been what a culture shock it was for me when I came to Commerce. What must it be for somebody out in New York? But I think the track coach probably wasn't completely honest with them, because they never complained about the things I'd have complained about, I think, which had been the housing.
Oh yeah? Why?
I was what they call old officers' barracks apartments. Call it South Dorms. But they had been promised to travel to all the meets. And that never happened.
With their families?
Yeah.
Were there other married athletes that might have brought their families, or?
You know, I know there was married athletes on the campus, and they had their families, and they were living in married dorms.
So not the same place that Carlos and Dice and their families were.
Well, yeah.
That was okay. What were some of the other things that they were complaining about, that they had concerns about, as black athletes specifically?
I don't really recall. Could I take a drink of water now?
Oh, of course, yeah. A couple years later, there was an incident that you did some really extensive research, I think, for the president on in 1970 when the track team coming back from a meet, there were just some issues that led to some of the team members not coming to the practice, boycotting practice, and then I think losing out on the opportunity to be track captains. It's unclear what was happening. Can you talk a little bit about that moment and the upsurge of the frenzy of activity that came about?
Yeah, I remember, but I don't know what it was really all about.
It's hard to tell, isn't it? I mean, the straws that we're grasping at were just, I guess, the lack of ability to have a meal. I guess they went for a long time without a meal, and they were in they didn't get a chance to change. And so they had the complaints, and Dice had, or not Dice, excuse me, the coach had some rebuttal for that, and I think it, along with some other things, led to a sit-in. And
yeah, I recall.
Yeah.
You know, we came back from Kansas relays, and you know, that we didn't stop until we got to the motel.
How far
on
was
the
that?
road. I don't recall.
Okay.
But yeah. But I think about it, what could they do? I mean, all the showers at the stadium were taken. You know, there were a bunch of teams there. University division and our division. But yeah, I'm sure it was uncomfortable. I could have arranged for something to eat.
Mm.
But yeah, that's what happened. They But I didn't hear about it till we got back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And you guys, everybody was taking the bus together from there? Was it a caravan of cars, or how did you, do you remember? Yeah.
We had to take they had a university station wagons.
Really? Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
I've thought about that too. They were a lot safer than the university vans. Because the university vans, you know, top heavy, and they had all those wrecks there for a while with university vehicles throughout the state, because those vans, all the weight would shift. Well, that wouldn't happen in those station wagons. But because I was the smallest one there, I was the one that had to ride the hump. So yeah.
Like the little brother. Oh, that's great. That's great. Where were your parents from? What area? Were they also from the New Braunfels, Galveston area? Or Galveston's not in this area, but
Galveston area.
yeah, Galveston. What brought them to New Braunfels?
They bought a little mom and pop grocery store. Think they want to get away from the coast. See. I had two sisters, one 17 years older than me, and the other one 15.
So you're like a second family.
Yeah. And my dad had seen Atlanta Park, New Braunfels, when he was stationed at Fort Sam in World War I, and fell in love with the countryside. I always wanted to go back. He had been a dairyman down in Galveston, in Lamarck. And
Had the game of dairy farming changed at that point, or where, I mean, I know corporations were starting to swoop up and take over dairy farms over in this area decades ago, but he just looking for a change.
yeah, he hated the. After a while, you hate the dairy business, I think. He got out of that, and he got an office job with the school district. He couldn't stand that. So he just picked up moved in New Braunfels.
Well, you were young when you guys did that, right?
I was about 6, 7.
Mm-hmm. So your sister was in Galveston because that's where she was raised, or they were raised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kelly's showing me some notes of some things she wanted to ask. We want to ask about.
Well, I was wondering about, you said that you covered football, which would have meant that you covered somebody, I see him in the papers always as King James, the black football star.
Uncle James.
Yeah, can you talk about him a bit? Because he's this football star, and all of a sudden, what I can read, he's invited to this all-star kind of game.
Yeah.
And then there's this big blow-up kind of thing. So can you talk about how he was covered versus what happened?
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
I wasn't there.
Uh-huh.
I just heard about it the next day, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to him on the phone the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And
What was that conversation like? Do you recall it?
I just told him good luck, you know. I'm on your side, whatever.
Because that was the one where I think it was might have been drafted if he played in the game, and then he just, I think it was in New Orleans, and New Orleans at this time was a very segregated city, and I guess he just left New Orleans or something. There's not a lot in the paper. And then I had a question about Dennis Dice, because I didn't know until today that he was actually from New York.
New
And,
Jersey,
well, yeah, we've had some different recollections of Dennis Dice as a very quiet person, the person who, when John Carlos came and spoke out against what he saw as mistreatments, he was apparently the person who said, "We are not behind John Carlos." He's
right,
not
he was the
speaking."
spokesperson for the resolution that came out of the athletic meeting that Jesse Hawthorne headed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it was interesting that in 1970, when there was the track issue with Coach Brown, he's leading the petitions. He's signing all of them. So how did, because you would have been there the entire time, did his demeanor change? Did he just become more willing to speak out? Was he just sick of it, or?
I think he was about ready to graduate. Didn't make any difference.
Makes sense.
Said what he thought, and you noticed he graduated with a master's.
Okay.
And he ended up with a pretty good job, it seems like.
And then about the Paul Hicks controversy, where apparently someone told him he would get a scholarship, and then Coach Brown was denying that he would get it. I know that we saw in President Halliday's files, he has a folder called Afro-American Affairs. There's about 4 or 5 pages written by you, where you were kind of, this is what I saw, and I guess it might have been your notes for an article or something.
I thought that was those were his notes following the Kansas thing.
I think it is, but I think it also includes some Paul Hicks.
Okay.
So it was kind of, do you remember the Paul Hicks blow-up thing? Right here. Okay. I think those are my only questions.
Okay. Let's see. So, can you tell us a little bit about your work history? Then you came on as in the second year of college in studying sports information. Did you have a job on campus during that time as an undergraduate, working directly with the paper, or I'm not sure?
No,
what
I
you
worked
figured.
strictly in sports information.
Okay, was that a separate department within journalism, or?
Well, Dr. Bell was head of the department,
Okay.
and one of his duties as head of that department was to take care of sports information. And a friend of mine that came from Southwest Texas became the graduate assistant for sports information. And he, he made all the travel plans and took whoever was going, got the station wagons, got the motels wherever we were going to stay. And so after a year, he left, and then I kind of assumed that position.
Okay.
And I'd be in charge of the statistics, home and on the road, and being sure all the right newspapers got called after the game.
Okay. Okay. So, just trying to understand the mechanics of it. Then, you're keeping track of the statistics during the game, and then you call the local papers to make sure they get the big, I guess, broad strokes of the story: who won, what the score was, the big plays, I guess. And you would also then write up an article that might appear in the East Texan, and also maybe be cycled out into the local press.
Yeah. And I was also in charge of the sports brochures
Okay.
for football, basketball, and spring sports.
Okay. Okay. And so did you continue on that through your graduate degree too? Your master's?
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you graduated, what was your job title?
They hired me as a SID.
Okay.
I was sports information director.
Okay.
They
Okay.
gave me a budget,
And so the same thing, just on a larger scale, and
yeah.
okay. Okay. And then in the interim, you met your wife. Where was she? Was she in Dallas? Did you find her at the archives?
No, she was a student here.
Okay.
When I became SID, I went to another office, News and Information office. She was a student worker for Dr. Bell in journalism. That's how I met her. I think she was a junior in college.
So we swept her off her feet, and then and she eventually got you to finish that thesis you were having a good time with. And so that's where you were until retirement at the sports information director.
No, after a while I became director of publications.
Okay.
Then assistant director of news and information, then director of information.
Okay.
Then they made me this along about 1980, they made me director of special projects. And I had an office up on the second floor of the BA building. Then that lasted maybe a year. I went downstairs and worked in the business office with Rex Giddens.
Oh.
And I was in charge of inventory, telephone system, vehicles, whatever. Then I was property manager. Then along the way I got the responsibility for reporting our room inventory, the coordinating board.
Mm.
So I had to measure all the rooms and wound up, moved down to maintenance, where I became the coordinator of facilities information. I had maintained a database and CAD drawings on the campus,
Mm.
which was fun. Oh, and one summer I did work as an intern for the San Antonio Light.
Oh, what was that like?
Great.
Was it? So, did that make you think for a moment or two about leaving the university environment and going out into journalism, into the world?
At times, but never seriously.
Well, gosh, kind of wonder if you dodged the bullet, don't you think? Because, how could you have known, or how could any of us know that the demise of journalism or the change of journalism? Oh, my goodness. So you saw a lot of changes over the campus over the years, I would imagine. So the same culture shock you experienced in '64, I guess you watched multiple waves of it while you're on campus. You were on this campus when Malcolm X was assassinated, when Martin Luther King was assassinated, when Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, when Nixon was, all that Watergate stuff was happening, and goodness, everything. The hostages and the Reagan era and the me generation and the time that they thought they thought about making our campus a prison.
9/11.
9/11. So you saw the world change as a journalist and as being responsible for information flow in a bunch of different capacities on campus. What's your take on that? On the view of the changing world from our little rural campus east of Dallas?
Never really stopped to think about it, but yeah. Let's say the physical change in the campus in the last few years is awesome.
Looks like a different place.
Looks like really nice,
I came in 2001, and it looks like a different place in just that amount of time. So, yeah.
Place